Hi guys, welcome back to CJ's Keto Kitchen. Tonight we are going to be making another delicious casserole, of course, because I am the queen of casseroles. And tonight's recipe is going to be Tuscan Meatball Casserole. So come along with me and let's get started. Part of this recipe, for all of you authentic Italians, don't come for me, I'm simply putting spinach into my meatballs, and that gives it more of Tuscany is known for healthy vegetables added into their dishes, and so that is what we are doing tonight. And we are going to be making a very easy, family-friendly meatball casserole, and it is going to have spinach in it, and that is going to be the star of our show. So let's go ahead and get started making this easy Italian dish. So you need to preheat your oven to 400 degrees. So you are going to need a large oven-safe baking dish for this recipe, and I have a 9x13 baking dish. And this is where our meatballs are going to cook, and they are going to go in the oven. So you need something about this size. You are also going to need a large to medium-sized bowl because we're going to be mixing up our meatballs inside this bowl before we put them into our casserole dish. So I put on a pair of gloves, not necessarily for sanitary purposes. My family is going to be eating this meal, but I do find that it prevents raw meat under my fingernails. So it's easier for me, but you don't have to do this, of course. So inside my bowl, I have 1 pound of Italian sausage, and it's just regular Italian sausage, not hot or anything like that, just regular. And I also have 1 pound of ground beef. Now for this recipe and all of our meatballs in general, you can use any combination of meat that you enjoy. If you like ground pork, if you like ground chicken, ground turkey, ground beef, if you want to do all ground beef, that's completely fine. If you want to do lamb, everyone has a different idea of what makes a perfect meatball. You simply need 2 pounds. So I have 1 pound of sausage and 1 pound of beef, but of course do whatever that you enjoy. So to our meats, I'm going to be adding 10 ounces of chopped spinach. I have cooked this and I have drained this thoroughly. Mine was frozen. If you prefer to use fresh, you need to cook it and drain it, and you need to make sure that it is dry as you can get it because we don't want a wet casserole. We will be draining our meatballs after they cook in the oven, but the less amount of water you have, the better. So once again, this is 10 ounces of chopped frozen spinach that I have cooked and drained. You need 1/3 of a cup of grated Parmesan cheese. And that is simply just grated Parmesan from a canister. You could use fresh if you preferred, but I do like the powderiness of the Parmesan that comes from a canister because it is going to take the place of breadcrumbs in this recipe. We have nothing that is going to stimulate breadcrumbs or panko or any other binder. So I do find that the grated Parmesan kind of gives it that texture of using breadcrumbs. I'm going to be adding seasoning. I like a lot of flavor in my meatballs since they are going to be the star of this dish. I have some whole freeze-dried garlic and just a little bit of peppers. This is just red pepper flake. I like a little bit of spiciness in my meatball. Not a lot, but just a little bit, and the children don't mind. They don't seem to notice it. So I'm putting that in. I also have some dried oregano and a little bit of granulated garlic. And this is about 2 tablespoons worth of seasoning. Here I have some chopped fresh herbs. This is completely optional. If you do not have access to fresh herbs or anything in that manner, you can definitely use dried. I really enjoy fresh herbs in almost any recipe that I can get them in, simply because it just adds that delicious freshness. Here I have 1 tablespoon of chopped rosemary. and 1 tablespoon of chopped thyme. Of course, you could use basil in this step. That would be delicious if you happen to be growing fresh herbs in your garden right now. Anything that you have would be delicious in this recipe. So once again, that is 2 tablespoons of fresh chopped herbs. I also want 1 cup of shredded cheese. I'm using mozzarella in this step because it is in keeping with the Italian theme. You could use any kind of cheese that you enjoy. If you wanted to use a yellow cheese, you absolutely could. But I'm going to be using 1 cup of shredded mozzarella. The cheese is going to help bind our meatballs together. I'm going to go ahead and start working this before we add our final ingredient to form our meatballs. Okay, so we have all of our dry ingredients now put into our meats. So the final thing that we are going to add into this is just 1 egg. So I just have 1 egg, and I'm going to go ahead and crack it in here. I'm going to take our yolk, and I'm just going to kind of break it up a little bit. And I'm just going to thoroughly incorporate that egg into the rest of our ingredients. All right, everything is thoroughly combined, and we have our meatball mixture ready to go. So once again, we have our 9 by 13 inch casserole dish, and I'm going to begin forming our meatballs and putting them into our dish. These are going to bake in the oven for about 30 to 35 minutes. And you can make your meatballs any size that you like. I have, a family of 5 that I'm going to be feeding with this. So I'm going to make my meatballs about 1.5 tablespoons worth. This is my cookie baller, and I'm going to make them about this size. If you had a smaller amount of people that you were feeding, or if you wanted larger meatballs, you could use a traditional cookie scoop size, which is a little bit larger, but I want smaller meatballs, so this is what I'm going to be using. So I'm just going to be putting them in. If you do not have a cookie baller, it's no big deal. You can just use a spoon or whatever you have on hand. And I'm just trying to form mine into balls. Nothing super fancy or perfect because this is a rustic dish. If you do not care for spinach, you could use a different vegetable here in this step. Still, to get vegetables into your meatballs, you could use zucchini. You would just need to make sure that you drained it very well. Quite ironically, I had to have my 8 and 10-year-old daughters Google Popeye because they had never heard of Popeye and his love of spinach for making him strong. They only know Popeye as a chicken company. I guess that's just first world problems. About 35 meatballs here, but I have just a little bit of meat left, so I'm going to fatten up some of the ones that are a bit smaller. Okay, so we used up all of our meat, fattened up some of our leaner meatballs. I'm just going to make sure that there's plenty of space in here for our meatballs to cook evenly. Once again, we are putting this into a 400-degree oven for about 30 to 35 minutes. So in our meatballs go 30 to 35 minutes at 400 degrees. Okay, it has been in the oven for 30 minutes, so we are going to get it out and then we are going to do the rest of our steps. Okay, here are our meatballs. Depending on what vegetable you put in here, you might need to drain it a little bit before you put your sauce on. Okay, our next steps for our Tuscan Meatball Casserole is going to be adding some sauce and some cheese. So I'm going to be putting 2 cups of low-carb pasta sauce on here. Use whatever kind of pasta sauce you enjoy. Or you can also use pizza sauce. It is generally lower in carbs than regular spaghetti sauce. I'm going to be using 2 cups because I'm going to be feeding a family of 5. You could use less sauce if you preferred. If you only wanted 1 cup, if it was just you or 2 people, you could absolutely do that. But I wanted it to be saucy. I am also going to be adding 8 ounces of shredded cheese. I have a combination of Parmesan and mozzarella here. You could use whatever kind of cheese that you wanted. If you wanted yellow cheese, you could use yellow cheese. But I am keeping with an Italian theme and just going with a white Italian cheese. So definitely use whatever you like. But once again, that is 8 ounces or 2 cups. So I'm going to put this back in the oven for about 10 to 15 minutes just to heat up all of our ingredients, the sauce and the cheese. I may broil it at the end for about 1 to 2 minutes. You don't have to do that, but I do like the little bit of brownness that happens to the cheese when I broil it at the end. But for right now, I'm putting it back in the oven, still at 400 degrees, for about 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, it is time for it to come out. I did broil it for about a minute just because I like the brown on my cheese. You can do whatever you would like. So there it is, all bubbly and golden. I'm going to get it out and let it sit for a few minutes before I let CJ taste it. You do need to let your casseroles sit about 10 to 15 minutes before you eat them. Hi CJ.
Hi.
Welcome to Italian Thursday. We are having Tuscan Meatball Casserole.
Great. They look good. So I just asked Sarah why this is a casserole, because it looks like just meatballs, but the vegetables are in the meatballs.
That's right.
Wow. They're good.
Good.
It's good. Lots of cheese and good flavor.
Good.
So, and I think, as usual, it'll probably get better as it sits.
Yes, it should, because the seasoning and the herbs will just get better
Right.
sitting.
So, good job, babe. I think people will like it. It's a nice treat, and I think the whole family will like it.
Yep.
And I don't taste any of the pepper flakes.
Okay, great.
Good job. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us again tonight, you guys. We hope that you enjoy this casserole. I know that my family definitely is going to. Italian food is one of our very favorites. Please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so that you know when we upload new content. We release recipes every week. Sometimes they're sweet and sometimes they're savory. Sometimes we have bonus recipes. We have a bonus recipe going up this following week on Monday. So definitely hit the notification bell so that you know when those things happen. On Wednesdays, we also have Keto Conversations, and that's where we get together and we discuss different relevant keto topics for this lifestyle. Sometimes it's food unboxing, sometimes it's just topics about this lifestyle. Occasionally we have what we eat also while practicing the keto lifestyle. So definitely hit the bell so that you know when those go up. If you need any information about this particular recipe, all of that is found on our blog, and that is CJsKetoKitchen.com. And there we have all the ingredients, the full recipes, most of which are printable, Also tips and tricks that I learned while filming this, and also CJ's taste test follow-up. So definitely check us out at CJsKetoKitchen.com. We are also on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest, and that is CJ's Keto Kitchen everywhere. And there a lot of people who follow us and like our recipes will make our recipes and post their own photographs of it and also their thoughts about it. And we also have different photographs of foods that we have made in the past and that we are currently enjoying and making again. So definitely check us out there. We hope that you'll come back next time and see us again. And until that time, be well. Bye-bye.